Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. We are back, bruised and not broken. Well, we are in Joshua chapter 11, and we are about to get into this. This is going to be a blessing to you. I promise you. We are continuing on, and honey, let me get into this because this has so much symbolic meaning. It also is, we're going to get, honey, let me just read it so we can get into it. Okay, so we in Joshua chapter 11. Oh, hold on. Before I do that, today was April 20th, right? And so this one is called Comfort. Can I find comfort in God's word? Yes, we can, because what we about to read is going to set our souls free. God doesn't always act in the way we expect, and we're going to see that. Why? Because our expectations come from faulty human perceptions. Now, this I would say with our minds, and this is where the battlefields are. This is where the delusion, they call it limerence. It's a bunch of other things I'm looking into. And this is our way of protecting ourselves, but it's also a way of us harming ourselves. One, it protects us from harm, but then it does give us illusion and delusions that, that are not reality. It takes us away in traumatical times to keep us from the brain allows you to survive when, like, let's say a rape victim. Let's say they're being in the process of being raped. Limerence is the type of thing that will take their mind away from the act while it's in the process. Why? So that the trauma itself would not kill them or put them into so much shock that their minds will go. So we're going to get into it. So now that would help. But in a sense of what actually happens in life, them continuing to have that needs to be, when real life situations are happening and they cannot, and they have these great expectations, or they're in this, what they call colorism or fantasy like child state, that has becomes a problem because now you can't distinguish what is really going on from what is not. Now, in a sense of the rape, it's helping you. So we're going to get into it. But most of us expect God to comfort us by providing us with the things that we want or the things we think we need. But the Bible says that God often comforts us with his presence, not with provisions. Things are temporary, but God is permanent and eternal. God shows up every time we need comfort, not with presence, but with his presence. This comfort is meaningful, lasting, and personal. And at first I didn't understand this, and I was angry, and I was trying to figure that out. And I'm like, presence. Well, because a lot of times you feel alone in a lot of things you go through, and a lot of times you are. And sometimes you don't need people to fix it, or sometimes they can't or have no answers. But you want somebody to be there with you to go through it with you. So that makes a lot of sense. God's response. I meditate on your age, O Lords. O Lord, they comfort me. Psalms 119 and 52. Whenever you were in distress and turned to the Lord and saw him out, you found him. 2 Chronicles 15 and 4. The Lord is good. And when trouble comes, he is a strong refuge. And he knows everyone who trusts in him. That's in Nahum 1 and 7. Then it says, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. Isaiah 41 and 19. No, 41 and 10. Now, this is important because in the times when we lose strength, and they have the footprints thing, and they said those are the times that I carried you, because we wonder how we make it through. And people say, oh, it was this. No, it was the Lord that kept your mind, that kept you. And this is why we have to be thankful and grateful for that. Why? Because people can lose their mind when certain things happen. If it wasn't for the Lord, when people, child got killed or died or something happened or they caught cancer or something was going on, if it wasn't for the Lord keeping your mind, you would go crazy. Why? Because certain situations, you need limerence, or you need, something to help your mind to continue to move forward. So with that being said, we're going to get into it because we're going to see how all of this stuff is going to connect, and it's going to be a blessing. So when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, remember we was in chapter 10, now we're in 11, he sent to Jobab, king of Madon, and to the king of Shimron, and to the king of Ashraf, and to the kings who were in the northern hill country, and in Arabah, south Chimera, and in the lowland, and Naphoth Dor on the west, and to the Canaanites in the east and the west, and the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites in the hill country, the Hivites under Hermon in the land of Mizpah, and came out with all their troops, a great horde in number, like the sand that is on the seashore, with very many horses and chariots. And all these kings joined their forces and came and encamped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. Now, remember, the Canaanites were Cain's children. So this is why a lot of this was going on too, because remember Cain and Abel. So those were his descendants. Now, remember, all of these people are relatives. This is why this is so crazy, because all of them are actually related. So this lets you know family dysfunction goes a long way. It is not just something that just started. This has been going on. It's not nothing new. So anyway, and the Lord said to Joshua, do not be, meaning dysfunction, do not be afraid of them, for tomorrow at this time I will give over all of them slain to Israel. You shall hamstring, their horses and burn their chariots with fire. We're going to get into that because that was so funny. So Joshua and all his warriors came suddenly against them by the waters of Merom and fell upon them. And the Lord gave them into the hand of Israel, who struck them and chased them as far as great as Sidon and Mizrapah and Maim, and eastward as far as the east of Mizpah. And they struck them until he left none remaining. And Joshua did to them just as the Lord said to him. He hamstrung the horses and burned their chariots with fire. I want to see, because that was probably funny. Like, not to say it like that, but it was. And Joshua turned back at the time and captured Hazor and struck its king with the sword, for Hazor formerly was the head of all those kingdoms. Remember, here we go with this. And they struck with the sword all who were in it, devoting them to destruction. Remember, God was talking about that. There was none left that breathed, and he burned Hazor with fire. So we got to get into why he did that too. Because, God did different things with them. And I be wanting to know, well, why he did that and why he did do that to that. So we got to look into it. But anyway, and all the cities of those kings and all those other kings, Joshua captured and struck with them the edge of the sword, devoting them to destruction, just as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. But none of the cities stood on mounds did Israel burn. I want to know what that's about. Except Hazor alone. So Hazor is some special kind of something that Joshua burned. And the spoil of these cities and the livestock, the people of Israel took for their plunder. So God allowed them to have the spoils of the city. But he burned Hazor. We're going to find out why, because he must have been doing some extra special something for him to get some extra special attention when it came to that destruction. See, when you do extra special, that's why they say the levels of hell is hotter and hotter, depending on what all you was doing here. See, because the level of hot that's going to burn you to eternity depending on how much levels of dirt you did while you was here. See, this going to be how that's going to go. So folks better be paying attention. Anyway, so the more evil, wicked you do, the hotter hell, the part of hell you going to be in is going to be for you. Pay attention. But every person is struck with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and did not leave any who breathed, just as the Lord commanded Moses to do. So Moses commanded Joshua, and so Joshua did. He left nothing undone, all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua took all the land, the hill country, and Negeb, and all the land of Goshen and the lowland, and Arabah, and the hill country of Israel, and its lowland, from Mount Halak, which rises to Asir, as far as Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon, below Mount Hermon. Oh, Mount Hermon, I remember Mount Hermon too. And he captured all the kings and struck them and put them to death. See, Joshua made war a long time with all those kings. There was not a city that would make peace with the people of Israel except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. Remember, they took them all in battle, for it was the Lord's doing to harden their hearts. Pay attention to that they should come against Israel in battle, in order that they should be devoted to destruction and should receive no mercy, but be destroyed, just as the Lord commanded Moses. So this is the same thing he did with Pharaoh. He allowed Pharaoh's heart to be hard. And why? Because he couldn't wait to tear that booty up. He wanted Pharaoh to continue doing what he was doing, because he knew Pharaoh was just terrible. And he was like, yeah, because you so wicked, because you so evil, and because I know that you are. And he allowed him to do just like he allowed, Satan to tear you up from time to time, like he did with Job, even though he allowed it. Why? Because he had a point to prove. He wanted to destroy, oh yeah, for all you did, come on over here, I'm going to tear that booty up. So and Joshua came at the time and cut off the Anakim. Remember, them was the Anakim, the Anunnakis, it's the fallen angels, it's the Nephilims, it's the Anakim, the Anunnakis, and all of these, them giants, remember? From the hill country, from Hebron, and from Debir, from Anab, and from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel, Joshua devoted them to destruction with their cities. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the people of Israel, only in Gaza and in Gath. And in Ashdod did some remain. So Joshua took the whole land according to that what the Lord had spoken to Moses. And Joshua gave it for an inheritance to Israel according to the tribal allotments and the land that had rest for war. So see, when we're talking about this, we're talking about land. So when you see them over there fighting and who's who, what's what, who's what, it's about who land, whose blessings reign, who's supposed to receive what, because it comes with the land. And if that land over there rightfully belongs to black people because the black people were enslaved and those were the chosen people, then honey, them folks over there that's fighting, portraying, this is what we be talking about. We got to get into a hunt name. Let me go on into this commentary. We gonna get into all of that later. So we got to talk about this thing. Why? Because these folks keeping folks land. This is what I'm talking about. These strongholds, these principalities, powers that's keeping you, blocking you from your blessings. And this is why tearing them curses up is a necessity. Why? Because all of these blockages that's blocking you from your blessings is, I don't care if they are people, places, and things. As you can see, God will hamstrung, He will destroy, He will cut the throats of air. Like I tell folks, I don't play with snakes. I grab the tail, cut the head off. And burn them up. I ain't got time. Why? Because you're not supposed to play with snakes. They snakes. Come on now. Folks be talking to snakes, playing with snakes, dealing with snakes. We got to get out of that. We really got to stop that. But anyway, hold on. Joshua 11, this chapter continues and concludes the history of the conquest of Canaan, of the reduction of the southern parts. We had an account in the foregoing chapter, after which we may suppose that Joshua allowed his forces some breathing time, right, to chill on out. Here we have the story of war in the north and the happy success of that war won the confederacy of the northern crowns against Israel. Then we got the encouragement which God gave to Joshua to engage them. Go ahead and get them. His victory over them, the taking of their cities, the destruction of the Anakim, and the general conclusion of the story of this war. So now let's get into it, because it's about to get good. It's already good. This is the people, places, and things that I be talking about that really stops us. I apologize for that because it's getting a little dark outside and I need, for this to come on here. Anyway, so like I said, we gonna get into it. Get into it. Let's get into it. It's getting good. Okay. So this is why the destruction of all of this stuff, because these are the people, places, things, the blockages in your life. They could be spiritual, they could be natural, because some of them are spiritual and some of them are natural. People, places, things in the spiritual and in the natural can be blocking you from what? Your blessings, from moving forward in life. And it's about you, but it's about stuff that you may not see and know. Everybody talk about, it's every decision you make. Not everything is a decision you make, because remember, even in Job's time, Job necessarily didn't do anything to go through what he went through. He went through it because God was proving a point to Satan, along with proving a point to Job about who's who and what's what. So let's get into this. So now, here in Joshua chapter 11, this is going to be spiritual lineage. This is going to be generational architecture. We're going to get into the layering, the covenantal, identity shaping, patterns of bondage, breakthroughs, and inheritance. Why? Because this is what we're trying to cut through all this red tape. Why? Because that's what this is all about. All of this red tape. When the death comes back to life, it's a lot of red tape that you got to get cut off. You got to resurrect that thing. You got to come on back to life. Why? You got to cut off the bondage, all this stuff. Why? Why? Because you was dead and gone for a long time. You was down and out, and now you need to be resuscitated. But with that comes a lot of stuff that needs to change, a lot of stuff that needs to be different. This resuscitation bringing you back, come back and live, but live differently. Don't live the same way. Core takeaway: Joshua 11th chapter is where God regional strongholds, not just individual battles. This is because there's both. There's individual stuff and then there's generational stuff. Now, it is a moment where entrenched generational systems, these are the kingdom of systems, the ones that feel ancient collectives and immovable and are immovable, finally collapse. This is not just victory, it is lineage cleansing, territorial inheritance, activation, and the end of long-standing spiritual resistance. Why? Because one thing about you trying to do something right and do something better, you gonna come into a whole heap of resistance. This is what this is all about. Resistance, the opposition. the hidden agendas, the hidden enemies, frenemies, whether it's at your job, whether it's in your household, your family, your children, your careers, whatever, the kingdom and systems of this world, because you could be, jobs closed down like we see, and they replace you with robots, and it could be a lot of different things, but it could be the coworker at your job, or the person that wants you fired, don't like you, don't want you to elevate, don't want you to get the promotion, stopping and blocking you, doing everything they can. You see what I'm saying? It could be a lot of different things going on. I talk about these things because it could be you going to get your hair done and folks just acting funny and mistreat you, when you go into the establishments, or whether it's getting your hair done, whether it's buying stuff and people treat you different, or trying to open up a business, trying to buy a home, a car, whatever. And these are the blockages we have, in our lives. And some of them are systemic because they're already put there to block you in the first place. This is what I mean when I say some things are your fault, but some things are not. It's just the systems that they are already here. So now you just have to deal with what's already here. So now Joshua 11 is not about one enemy. It's about the coalitions. Yes, the alliances, the same systems and kingdoms, this is what I'm talking about, that have been in place for generations. We got the credit systems that's here. We got the red line. We got all these systems, especially when it comes to black folks. So they don't want to let us go. No, we ain't do nothing, right? They don't want us to progress. These are your generational blockages, your kingdom and system. This is where we have to get into really, doing what we need to do. Spiritually, this represents patterns that didn't start with you. Exactly. You're just born into it, so you just have no choice. Bondages that run through family lines. Exactly. Structures that have resisted breakthrough for decades. Exactly. Enemies that gather together because your lineage is rising. So that's the opposition. Now, the chapter shows that when God elevates a lineage, opposition becomes organized. Yes, it does. Why? Because they may not like you, as we see. They may not like each other, but they like each other enough to get together to get you. Now, opposition becomes organized, but God becomes even more decisive. And this is what we see. Even in the world today, as black people, we can see all these other races may not like each other, but when they get together, they don't like us. So they all get together to come against us. Boom! This is what we're talking about. You see what I'm saying? And it's not to say it to be mean and rude and nasty, but it's to say it because it's really what goes on here. So now let's get into it. The Northern Kings unite, symbol of generational systems, joining forces. Like we said, okay, here we go. They want us to go to war. They want us to do this. They want us to fight. They want us to do all these things. But when it comes to us being the people, they'll shoot our children down in the street like a dog. They won't do this. They won't do that for us. Like I said, when it comes, and it's not even doing for us, it's just not oppressing us, not being unjust to us, and not being unfair to us. If they would do half of that, then maybe we could move forward in life the way we should. But because this is what they do, and they've been doing it, and they don't like to be corrected, and they want the same old kingdom systems where they're supreme and they rule and they over, they don't want to change that. This is what I talk about, the blockages. There are so many and so many different situations and areas. So now generational trauma plus poverty plus betrayal plus fear, all trying to rise at once. So now these are the systems, these are the kingdoms, these are the situations. You know what I'm saying? Let's say you wanna say you wanna be a doctor, right? And you black, and you go to school, you do this, you do that, and half the time, when it comes to your grades, the monies, the this, you already have it hard enough. But then let's say you get through all of that, you persevered, it was hard, you went through all of this, you got through it. Now you got all these loans, all this money. Okay, you got to get a job. You get out there and you may have more accolades for the job, than a Hispanic or a white or a other African or whatever other nationality, but they would choose someone else over you. You see what I'm saying? These are the things that I'm talking about. And see, these are the things if you say, oh, it's just not, no, it is something. What do you mean it's not? And it's not something you necessarily have control over. It's not your fault. It's just, this is the way it is. So now, but God responds with one sentence: do not be afraid of them, because the scale does not intimidate God, right? Because they was tipping on their favor. Not in your lineage and not in our story. So let's get into it. Joshua disables the horses and burns the chariots. I thought this was so funny. Breaking lineage dependencies. Right, because that's what we need to do. God commands Joshua to hamstring the horses and burn the chariots. What does this mean? This is a deeply symbolic. What it means: Horses equal speed. They equal power. They equal old coping mechanisms. Things your lineage relied on for survival. Hyper independence, people pleasing, emotional shutdown, hustle without rest, survival mode thinking. Now, ain't that where we are? Ain't that what we are doing? Haven't we been doing this for like ridiculously so long now? Isn't that just crazy? Chariots equals systems of bondage, structures that carry generational patterns, such as debt cycles. This is what I was talking about. Family dysfunctions, scarcity mindsets, trauma responses, unhealthy relational patterns. Joshua destroys them because our lineage cannot enter inheritance using old survival tools. This is God's way of saying you will not win future battles using old bondage strategies. So now, like I was saying, the great expectations. We're going to get into it. The defeat of Hazor, the head of all those kingdoms. Remember, I wanted to know what happened and why they did them like that. Hazor is described as the head of all these kingdoms. So remember, we was talking about like the pyramids and the triangles, and this is what they use, those six-sided triangles that everyone says is the Star of David, but it's a lie. David never had a star. Those are stars of those pictograms. Those are stars of anyone using those stars, secret societies, all of those worship the devil. Why? Because when you look into witchcraft and sorcery, they use that along with that circle to make up whatever stuff to conjure, whatever they're conjuring. So booyah, y'all take that, put that in your pipes and smoke it. Anyway, along with all of that other stuff, them unks and stuff they use too. Sorcery. Anyway, this is why they was destroyed. When you look up all these ites, Hezites, Perizzites, Egyptian, this is why God destroyed them, and this is why. This is why folks is in bondage. This is why they doing whatever they doing. And if you join them and you go ahead and join them to be here and live well and do well, you will have whatever you have here. And when you leave, you will die and go to hell. That's just the bottom line. God, you better repent. You better renounce it, denounce it, and get rid of it, because you are tied. Your soul is tied in the spiritual realm to Satan. And just like when Moses died, because he was a part of the Egyptian kingdom, okay, he renounced them and denounced them. But see, Satan was like, oh, well, he wanted his body. Why? Because technically speaking, he wanted him because he was part of that family and lineage. But because he renounced it and he ended up with the Lord, guess what? They had to leave Moses alone, and that body was never, to this day, they don't know what happened to Moses. But they know he not with Satan. But anyway, let's get into it. This is not root stronghold. This is ancestral sources and the origin point of generational patterns. So he was the head of these kingdoms. This is why I was so much with him. This is why God wanted to get that booty seriously. He was the head of the whole honcho situation. Okay, so every lineage has a Hazor, the first betrayal. Oh Lord, the first poverty cycle, the first abandonment, the first injustice, the first spiritual wound, the first agreement with fear or scarcity. Joshua burns Hazor completely. This is the spiritual picture of God burning the root of the problem, not just trimming of the branches, because everybody else will get together and go along with the head honcho, which is the one that's going to terribly be burned up for doing what they did all the time. The folks think they get away, you don't. And the burning reminds me of the witches and the warlocks, because he said in the word, suffer them not to live, and to burn them at the stakes. But anyway, God burning the root, that's what he does, not trimming the branches, the ones on the sideline who just participate in him. So, although they gonna get their just desserts too. Your lineage is not just getting relief, it's getting deliverance at the source. So whatever the roots are, when you have roots of evil wickedness in your family, whatever the betrayal, the first poverty cycle, the abandonment, the injustice, the spiritual wound, the first agreement that gave you the fear and scarcity, whatever that was, he started that. And that's why, like I said before, debt cycles, family dysfunction, scarcity mindset, trauma responses, and unhealthy relational patterns. This is what came of that. So that's why we're here. Joshua takes the entire land lineage inheritance activated. After the strongholds fall, the text says Joshua took the whole land and gave it as an inheritance. Now, this is the moment where our lineage shifts from survival to ownership. Why? Because whatever they had rightfully belonged to you. This is what it talks about in whatever the enemy stole from you, because he stole your mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual well-being. Whether it was your husband, your children, your this, your that, whatever it was they took in the spirit, okay, they got to pay it back. Once you get right, and in the word it says when the thief is caught stealing, he must pay back sevenfold what he has stolen and double for the trouble. So now, and then it also includes the inheritance, meaning inheritance is whatever whoever died and left and was supposed to give to you, and whatever else comes after. Why? Because as the spiritual one to collect, you will collect it all for everybody as the inheritance. Why? Because it ain't just one. Remember, when they got the curse and they got destroyed, everybody got it. So when they got blessed, it's the same thing. When they got the cursing, all of them got the killing and the hanging, and right. And when they all got the blessing, they all got the blessing. Meaning whatever whoever did, it wasn't just a one person. That's why when God called them, he called them by family name, by the lineage. Joseph had his sons, that was his tribe. They called Manasseh and Ephraim, those were his children. They called them by tribe. All 12 of them had their own lineage with their sons, had their children, and each tribe of Judah is named after the 12 sons. So if you fall up, whatever lineage you fall up under, that's what your inheritance is going to be. And that's how it was. So and that's how it still is to this day. That's why they call the family tree, the family line. This is what this is all about. I think I did one on trees and all of that too, and the significant meaning of them. So you can go back. I don't remember, it was a while ago. But anyway. So now, inheritance become accessible. What was delayed becomes released. Ooh, what was resisted becomes established. Your family line steps into rest and not warfare. Meaning not always having to fight and struggle for everything you get. Why? Because that's that dog-eat-dog world system that we're talking about. Who wants to have to consistently fight for every crumb, every penny, every nickel, every dime, anything, your marriage, your children? You just always fighting in a fight to keep, to get, to multiply, to whatever. You just fighting all the time. And this is what we see. So this chapter is where our lineage start fighting for identity and starts living from identity as well. This is where you can rest at, honey. Lord, folks be tired looking old because they ain't got no rest, baby. You supposed every season supposed to have a time. You time the war time, but you have to have a time. If you ain't never got no rest, that is a problem. Signs of curses when there's always stuff going on. When there's always, if it ain't the children, it's the this, it's the that. It's always something all the time. That is a problem. Please look into your life, because that's a problem. It's not a blessed life, that's a cursed life. Because God gives us rest. And he says in his word, he gives rest to his beloved. So, honey, if you either that or you're not his beloved. Now, if you're not his beloved, you're not rolling with him. You're gonna be in that same system. Now, since the land had rest from war, and this is what we talk about. When the people curse, so is the land. So now the lineage rest season. This is not just peace. This is generational rest, meaning cycles stop repeating the evil, wicked curses. And now you got the new cycles of blessings. Hello. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Somebody. Patterns stop resurfacing. Them O's. The atmosphere of our lineage changes. The spiritual climate resets. Exactly. The next generation inherits stability, not struggle. Won't he do it? This is what the fight and the battle is all about. This is the moment where God says your lineage will not fight the battles your ancestors fought. Won't he do it? But you gotta be with him and in Christ. You cannot think you about to do all of this and be on the other side unless you're rolling with Satan and you about to do what Satan tell you to do. And you don't get everything, probably you won't. And then in the end, you'll be, you be passing on the curses down to your children. That's gonna be that. But anyway, what Joshua 11 means for your lineage, this chapter mirrors exactly what we're building, what we're talking about. A lineage that breaks ancient patterns. It burns old coping mechanisms. It burns, it cuts off inherited cycles. It dismantles systemic bondages. It claims territories, spiritual and practically, meaning spiritual and naturally, meaning it claims territories. We need to have territories. It establishes generational rest. It creates a new spiritual ecosystem for descendants. This is the blueprint for generational liberation. Now we wonder why we're not seeing it, because we're not doing what God tells us to do. And as long as we continue to live in the world, of the world, and outside of Him, we're going to continue to deal with the same old cycles. What's changing? Okay, so people, when we talk about self-care, you see I got my little heads up, honey. Self-care is more than just getting your hair done. It can be a part of that. But please understand, self-care is this right here. This is what self-care is. This is going to have you chilling, relaxing. It's not going to say life is going to be perfect and wonderful. No, you're going to have your trials and tribulations, of course. You're not going to be here and never have nothing. You're going to have good and bad, because you would not know one without the other. But what you will have is the times and the seasons like you're supposed to. We will have your times of rest. You will have passed down blessings instead of curses. You will have these different things, and more than anything, you'll have Christ in your life, and He'll be showing you how to maneuver more than anything in the relationship with Him. And when you leave here, you're going to go with Him. You're going to leave stuff better for your children, and leave them something knowing that you know who you serve and how this went about. And it will be so much better. So this is what this is about. Now, your lineage declaration, Joshua 11, we're going to look into this. Our lineage declaration is not being intimidated by the scale of opposition, because remember, whenever you're trying to do this, people are going to come up against you. Whenever you're doing something new, and when that's in your job, that's, with your friends, that's, your family, your children, your mate, whenever you're trying to do something new, because the opposition is, why should you change it? Keep it the same way. Let's not go here. Let's not do this. Folks just want to stay the same. Why? Because there's safety and comfort, so they think, and being and knowing where they are. And that's not growth, though. That's not building. That's not growth. That's not, that's being fearful of change. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not something that we don't go through, but it's still that we still have to understand you can't stay the same forever, and no one is. Whether it's your job, whether it's your marriage, no one wants to stay at the same job, the same pay for the rest of their life. I mean, come on now. You know what I'm saying? Especially with everything else in the world changing, along with titles, along with, the cost of living, along with everything else. So you got to change with it. We can't get stuck in these dinosaur, just staying stuck. God is burning every root, every stronghold. That is a good thing. Getting rid of what is at the root of the problem. And this is what the self-care is about. Because if you're not getting rid of the root problem, you're just going to get rid of the other stuff, the trimmings, and you're going to see it's going to sprout back up, because the root has not been taken care of. And this is why with everything we're doing in our family life, whatever, the root problem, we have to get to it. We can't just ignore it. We got to uncover all of that, dig it up, get on to the root. And it's an ugly process, but we got to go through it. That's how healing, deliverance, restoration, all of these things are going to happen. And then you may have to plant new seeds. You may have to start all over again. That's what God's going to do. And this is what this is about. All survival systems are being dismantled. That's what that's about. You tearing down the old to rebuild something new and something better. My family steps into inheritance. But the one thing about rest and generational stability, the one thing about that too, because even when we're in marriages and we're in different things, long-term, marriages, and you're in marriage, there's going to be different versions of you. You're not going to be the same. And this is where people, you're going to get older, you're going to get fat. This is what I was talking about before. And I'm not saying that just to say in marriages. I'm talking about on your job, with your children. They're going to grow up. All these things, this change is going to happen. And you have to be able to handle change and be able to roll with the flow. And, be able to learn new concepts and new ways of doing things, because if not, it's going to be a problem. Whenever people get healed and delivered and restored, they're going to see issues in their relationships. I don't care if it's their job. I don't care if it's their spouse or if it's their children, because whenever you're trying, like I said, doing something different, it's going to be a problem. You're going to get resistance, because people want you to stay the same, whether it's for their benefit, whether it's for their own agendas, whether it's because they're comfortable with you that way, whether it's because they don't want to see you move forward and grow. This is what all of this is about. Whatever it is that is going on. And this is sad, but this is exactly what this is. And it just is what it is. The battles of the past will not return. Why? Because when they're all torn up by the root, this is what's going to destroy it. You got to kill it at the root. And the lineage will be set free. That is the best part, of this situation, of the story. But now, like I said, this is where we come into the expectations, the illusions and delusions of things remaining the same, or the expectations being too great and too high. And I was talking about the mind thing because we have a lot of issues when it comes to our mind. They were talking about the limerence. They were talking about all these other things. That's comfort. Folks want to be comfortable where you are. Sometimes your life going to take a turn. It's going to have to be uncomfortable in order for things to be different. It's not going to be able to remain the same. And when I was talking about the mind thing and memory and mental stuff, it was reminding me of the disorders, or, people having these illusions or delusions of what things is going to be, whether it's in their jobs, in their businesses, whatever. And when I talk about these things, I'm talking about these things because let's say, okay, you want to get a business, you're black owned, you want to get out there, you want to start doing things. Cool, wonderful. But how you run your business and treat your customers is going to make a big difference too. Also, spirituality wise, because a lot of people, when they start new stuff, they don't understand. A lot of these places have their spirituality plays a big part. When you go into these shops, nail shop, you see Buddha. Why? Because that's who they worship. When you see the Allah people, they stop and they pray every couple of hours. That's their religion. That's how they make their money. Why? Through what they worship. You see what I'm saying? So, and then it's a lot with the spiritual wars too, when people don't want you to do well, and when you are already systemic held down, especially black people, when they don't want you to do well, you're going to have a lot of extra stuff going on as well. So just be mindful of that. Those are spiritual things that, you need to take care of, you need to look into. As one minute you could be flourishing and the next minute you're not, and then you wonder why. People have issues, problems with you, and they will go out their way to, destroy you, whether it's sleep with your husband or your wife, whether it's to come after you, business-wise to destroy you, lie on you, cheat on you, whatever it could be a slew of things that people are willing to go through any and every links because everybody has their own agenda. They have their own, and these are the ones that we keep talking about, the evil spirits that get into people and Satan will send them to them as well as into your life. Why? To see, and God will test you and allow it to happen to see if you're going to fall for it, if you're going to go through it, if you're going to continue to stay strong with your walk, or if you're going to fall by the wayside. And these will be tests. Sometimes it'll be a Job situation where you don't deserve it, and he wants to, like Pharaoh and like this king, he knows they're evil and wicked, and he wants to destroy them. And we look at that from even with, our own lives, and we see how certain things, go in life, and we wonder how we ended up here. I see a lot of men talking about, the child support and these other different things. When you go from woman to woman to woman and you have all these children, you can't complain about child support or anything else. You can't expect not to take care of your children, okay? And you can't expect God to bless you, your life, your new woman, your new situation, and children ain't even yours, and not take care of, see what I'm saying? And then y'all wonder why stuff don't be the way it's supposed to be. Why you go through such hard times, such roughness, because God says in the word, it's a curse to leave your family. It's a curse to neglect them. It's a curse. You bring upon curses upon yourself when you abandon your household, meaning your children, your woman, your wife. You're supposed to be married anyway. So it's just like you're not supposed to be running around here sleeping with everybody. You're not supposed to be running around doing all of this. And then you wonder why STDs, all these other things. This is what I'm saying. And for those who are gay, who are out there, you're supposed to be a whole man and not even a woman. And you're running around here doing all these things. And you wonder why you may have, plenty of money here, because a lot of them have a lot of stuff going on, because Satan will allow them to do that. Why? Because he's working for them. He's in their camp, and he's going to promote his children for his stuff. So that's going to be that. But when you leave here, you better get that right, because breaking a lot of stuff with that, and you see how God deals with folks depending on the severity of the laws that they're breaking. Remember, even as a gay person, you're not having family and all these other things like the way you're supposed to. The role you have in this world, you're not going by what God says what you were created for. So now you're not being the man in the house. You're not being the father to the children that you're supposed to have. You're not being the role model. You're not being any of these things that God called you. Remember, we all have purpose and assignments here. This is why we can't mimic and do what the other one do, because if you're so busy trying to outdo this one or do what this one is doing, instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, then guess what? The people you're called to reach, it's not going to be reached, because you're somewhere doing something else. So this is where the problem becomes. Everyone has their own lane, their own, stuff, situations that they are supposed to be handling. And if you're not, then it's being just left there. So you have to account for that, because God's going to ask you, well, why didn't you, do what you're supposed to do while you was there? You just went there, you became your own God and did what you want, pride and ego. And so, like I said, everyone has their own agendas. Everyone has their own personal stuff that they want to do. And this is the illusion and delusion sometimes, because sometimes we think it's from God and sometimes it's not. It could be the limerence I was talking about, the way of survival. And this is how we end up, how we end up rejecting what is good instead of what's bad. Or we'll just sit back and we'll just, put the walls up like Jericho and never move and do anything, because we're so afraid and terrified. Fear will have us paralyzed and gripped in certain situations. Like, I feel for people who are rape victims. I mean, not to say it like that, but I was, molested. So being molested and being a rape victim is some similar, but not exactly. But it is someone who is in a position over you, or they have, some type of power. And this is what this is all about. And when you see these type of things happening and people just doing what they can do because they want to, and making victims of people, it's ridiculous. Like I said, whether it's male or female, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to, just because you are and you can do certain things doesn't mean you should. Even in your job settings, same thing, because you have the power to ruin somebody. You have the power to destroy somebody. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? You have the power to fire them because you don't like them. Now, it's not to say if they don't do their job or stuff like that, that's one thing. But you just want to fire them or do stuff to them for no reason. Why would you want to do that? I mean, but see, this is how some people think. And this is how the evil wickedness in their heart is. You know what I'm saying? Just like, when people are dating or whatever, and woman could be somewhere minding her business and she's getting herself together, and you have these men that they'll run her down, chase her down, get a pregnant dog, or leave her, and then talk junk, and then still want to have control over her. For what? Or you have the woman who do you got some women who do that, where they, they don't want the man, they never wanted the man, but they don't want nobody else to have the man either. And so they'll just make their life miserable when they move on as well. It's just crazy. Come on now. But see, that's the evil wickedness in them. And you got to be careful. That's why I say, when it comes to certain things, you see how these ones was the same ones, and stop repeating the same old patterns, dealing with the same old demons, dealing with the same old, what they call it, fighting the same old battles, seeing the same old enemies, fighting the same enemies. You got to see these enemies no more. You got to fight them and be done with them. You got to learn your lesson the first go around. And then what happens is sometimes God allow them to come around in different bodies. So when you see how people date the same people, or they deal with the same situations on their job, or they do, that's a spiritual thing. That's that stronghold. That's that. You got to break that. You got to go to God and ask God to break that. You got to get him to help you break that, because that's something that follows you wherever you go. Like, if wherever you go, you can't get a good job, you got a good degree, you do, and you see the opportunities always is passing you up. It could be a rejection spirit. It could be a bunch of different things. But like I said, now getting into mind, memory, and mental disorders, because sometimes these are disorders, but a lot of them are spirits or spiritual, like they could be curses, whatever. It could be the limerence thing. Like I said, things in your mind, because the battlefield is in your mind. Now, addiction is one of them. There's a big thing with addiction, because we can see a lot of people addicted to things. It could be sex. It could be drugs. It could be partying. It could be fame, money. It could be power. People could be addicted to just about some of any, and it could be food, And so when we sit here and we look and we think about these things, it makes a whole lot of sense. So now the leading things we want to look at: addiction, any type of spiritual guides. This also has stuff to do with Alzheimer's. Any type of issues with your mind. You can see people have Alzheimer's and different things. A lot of times it has a lot to do with these type of things. Blank minds, blocked child memory recall, or you can have blank mind spirit, blocked memory recall. These are things that, block retention. A lot of times these are disorders, but they are actual spirits that can, and curses that can bound you, or, bondages. Bound mind compulsions. I was talking about compulsions before. People have ACD or whatever, different type of compulsions that they have. Confused memory, dead brain cells. Is people who were sick. Maybe they smoked their brain cells away. I don't know. Some people are delusional. This is where, that mind of great expectation, great this, great that come in. We can have dead brain cells, delusional, dementia. This has a lot to do with that too. When you see these things, people have these different type of ailments, then these are spirits they probably have been battling, or curses that and they don't even know. Just like in your bloodline, it could be breast cancer or diabetes, or these are hereditary, but they are curses because God gave us bodies to be whole and not to be sickly. He didn't create us to be sickly and die. We're supposed to die, but we're not supposed to be. Them people used to live till they were 900 years old. God stopped it at 120 because the world was so evil. He didn't want people to live that long anymore. But that's a curse. That's not a blessing. See? And not to say it's a curse, but it's a way for him to stop us, Then dementia, demonic bondage spirits with drifting minds. I talk about drugs. They can be street drugs or medical drugs. Pharmakeia, failing memory, fear of being wrong. Have that, fear of losing control. Of course, forgetfulness, fragmented souls and minds. People have hallucinations. They can be under hypnosis, inability to concentrate. A lot of these can be spell work too, because people can do spell work on you, have you going through stuff and you don't even realize it. Then you have inherited stuff, like I was talking about, the different type of diseases, heart disease, Then you have insanity that can be inherited too. Autism, labyrinth. Lapse memory, learning difficulties. Some people have children with learning disabilities. Lunacy, madness, mania, malfunctions of the nervous systems, mental fatigue, mental illnesses, which I told you a lot to do with. These are a lot to do with, what you call them? These demons and demonic forces, these spirits. Yeah. Stubborn, pride, rebellion, ego, self-righteousness, individually and altogether. Mind confusion, mind binding, mind distortion, nervous breakdowns, nervous tension, oppression, power of suggestion, psychoneurosis, rejection. We talked about rejection. Spirit of rejection follows you around. Allow people to reject you everywhere you go for no reason. Roving, wandering mind, self-deception, shallow mind, shock treatment, slavery spirits, yep, sorrow, grief, pharmakeia, stress, acute stress, suicide, you can have homicide too, tormented memory and mind, twisted memory and withdrawal. We can have these abnormal reactions, anxiety, amnesia, apathetic, compulsions, delusional, hysterical, irresponsible, neurotic illnesses, neurosis, obsessions, personality disorders, personality impairment. You have phobias. You can have psychoneurosis, psychosis, psychotic depression, psychotic mania, regression, rejection, stress. Of course, a lot of us all have stress. Tormented, trauma, unreality. Yeah, that's the fantasy. Unstable. And then that's neurotics, but these are the passive. Those are neurotic personalities. Then you have the passive ones, which are the mind and the wills. A bound mind, a closed mind, a confused mind, a forgetful mind, a darkened mind, a defeatism mind, despair, despondent, doubt, draining of mental energy, dull, inactive, lethargic, empty and vain, futile mind, hesitation, indecisive, lack of concentration, lack of judgment, listless, manipulation, mental pressure, mental torment, moral stagnation, negative thoughts, powerlessness, procrastination, being a quitter, having regression, shutting down, unenthusiastic, unreality, unresisting, unresponsive, unsettled, unstable, withdrawn. Negative self-judgment. You can have, where you speak negatively of yourself. This is people who have low self-esteem a lot. Critical. They can be defeated, defensive, dejection, depression, despair, discouragement. They can be just dried up where there's no joy, no peace, heaviness of heart, judgmental. Like I said, no joy. Pride spirit that works with rejection, instability, retaliation, suicide, unforgiveness of self. Then we also have oppression, and oppression is tied to rejection. They have antichrist spirit, bitterness, complaining, confrontational with anger, critical, deep insecurity, discouragement, disobedient. They have issue with drugs, dysfunctional, feeling of being unloved, feeling of not being wanted, hatred of authority. A lot of people have that. Immovable, independence, lashing out, malfunction of thinking process, misbehavior. They also talk about the different spirits like the python spirit, The cobra spirit, the pharaoh spirit, I believe I went through that. Negative attitude, negative speech, negative thoughts. These are all mental opposing spirits. Pessimism. We could be prideful, have, what is it? Pride and, what's the other one? Rebellion, rejection, self-pity, self-afflictions, feelings of unfairness, self-will, strong and immovable, stubbornness, understandable, unsubmissive, unteachable, hard-hearted. Talked about that. Have witchcraft. And then there are other ones, but I'm just going to give you those for now, and we can just think about them. And if we have any signs of those in our lives at all, I myself, like I said, I try to sit here because I look at my own stuff that I have going on, my own, I know I have stuff with eczema, different things like that. So I look up the different things and I try to figure out what's going on in my family bloodline. How did it get here? Why is it here? It could be the diabetes, sugar, and this is why I'm taking better care of my health. And it's self-care, but it's self-care on the inside more than just on the outside. And the reason of that is because outer appearance is wonderful, but my inner needs to be, my spirit man needs to be healthy and taken care of. Why? Because, within you rise the Holy Spirit. Is this, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. So we're supposed to be taking care of our bodies. And how can we be any earthly good if we're not here, if we're sick and we're dying, to our families, to God, to, our communities, to our children, our families, if we're not healthy? Because, a person who is here and they're sick and dying, how much can they really, not to say it like that, but they're the ones that's going to need some help. And this is why, this is important, that this self-care situation is more than just going to get your hair and nails done. Now, you can do that, don't get me wrong, but what does your heart look like? What does your mind, what does your mental, emotional, your physical, financial, and your spiritual well-being look like on the inside? What type of anything that you have going on that you are, taking care of that. I neglected the outside of me, and God is like, you have to take care of your body. You have to do that. And I'm like, I'm really starting to understand that. And the way that I eat and my diet affects my eczema, my hands, my skin. Sometimes it look good. The sugar and different things, which also I have the diabetes in my family, so it's like these things are there and they connect. And it's a spiritual along with the natural thing that goes along with it. So, but in order for me to work with God, if I want to be healed from it, I have to start changing my diet. I have to start exercising. If weight is a problem, if health is an issue, if pressure, if stress, you have to look into these things. Because I was talking about these things before, and I was telling everybody how everything has its, if either a curse or it has its origin as to why, because God created our bodies to not be sick. So if we are sick, it has everything to do with us and what's going on here and other things that is going on, like the curses and different things. Why? Because there's a lot of stuff they put in our foods and we're not eating well. There's a lot of things they put in the ground. Remember, they're killing off the plants and all of that, so we can't necessarily have the same food we used to have, which was natural. They're doing the false foods, which is the fake foods. They're not natural. They're not, from the earth, from the ground. They're not from, and if they are, they're doing stuff to, alter them. And it's part of population control. It's part, like I said, they killed off all the female trees just so they can have male trees so they can't reproduce, food and stuff. Why? Because they don't want you, even if you go in your own, I remember they were talking about folks not being able to catch rainwater and all these type of things, but who told them we can't catch rainwater? It's like, and when you see stuff like that, you already know that this stuff is ridiculous. This is not normal. This is not God. God is not in this, because we're paying for water. Water is free. We're paying for things God gave us for free. we should be able to go out and grow food in our own yards instead of in the grocery stores. We should be able to do all of these things that God gave us originally, intentionally for us to have. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. We shouldn't have to pay them for land and property. Why? Because it already belongs to the Lord. So when you see them talking about they're fighting for this land and this territory and these inheritances, it's because they're taking back what rightfully the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything that belongs in it belongs to God. And whoever his children are, that's who gets the inheritance of it. Meaning they have it all. So whoever took it illegally. And because they took it illegally, now you got to go get it back. They stole it. So now, how did they steal? They lied to us. They stole. They killed. They destroyed. How did they do that? First of all, they did it where? In the Garden of Eden. When they lied to Adam and Eve, when he gave up his power and authority and all of his rights and all of that. Why are we going to let them think that, doing this over here was going to be so much better than that? And this is what is done right now. We're going over here and, getting deals from the devil is so much better because you can sing and you can this instead of just sitting here and whether you sing in the church or wherever and let God make a way for you and do other things. But because that's not what you want, it's not, because we have these gatekeepers. These are the blockages. These are the open doors, the closed doors. These are blockages. These are the people, places, and things that block you from getting to where you need to be in life. Why? Because you want to do certain things, but it's like they only allow you to go but so far. And if you try to go further than that, you're going to find yourself hitting a ceiling, because that's when they're going to step in and let you know who you are and who you're really not. And this is where we have the problems at. This is why we see what went on with, and even they themselves, because they go through these type of things when it comes to, because there's no honor amongst thieves. So when you think about, they get together and do stuff with each other, but they still, wicked. So they still backbite with each other too. They still fighting for power in their kingdom too. Why? Because everybody want to be on top. That's what they're doing. So when we look at these things, it makes a whole, it makes a whole big, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I was like, Lord, well, between my hair and trying to fit my skin and all these other things, I've been looking for creams and different things, and I'm trying to change my for my gut health, but I had a lot of stuff going on with my health anyway that kind of drained me a lot. And I'm trying to put back a lot of the stuff, the nutrients and stuff. And it's hard to find stuff, whether it's my hair and I'm older, and stuff like that. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about relationships, because people got to be able to deal with you. People will see him like, and they'll look at you when they have this great, whatever is as to thinking who you are, but then they don't know anything about you. And these are the things we have to be careful of. This is that magical thinking. They use it on us in the churches. They use it on us with spells, whatever you want to call it, that magical stuff. The magical kingdom they have, Disney, where, everything is wonderful and it's just this, but it's all an illusion, and it's illusion. It's not real. So, it just makes so much sense when we think about these things, because if I was to take this off, my hair showed up under here. I'm having issues with, but I was talking to my friend about the hair. My hair was long at one point, when I was younger, I had a time where it fell out. They had put a Jericho curl on top of a perm. My hair fell out when I was younger. And I went bullheaded then, but when I was younger, I had nice long hair like my mom. And so it's like, then you go through these phases, and I'm just going to say this just to kind of let us look at how the kingdom and systems of the world work. So then we got certain ages. At one point, it was the Jericho curls. Everybody was rocking afros and Jericho curls, especially black people. So then this is what they come out with. So remember, this is their stuff. Teaching us, training us how not to like and love ourselves. Is the systems in place. So now they turn around, they leave, they did Jericho. Everybody was doing Jericho curls, right? But why? Why wasn't our regular natural hair the way it was ever good enough? Everybody else's hair was fine. It was our hair that was a problem. Everybody else here was fine, but the nappy hair, the kinky hair, it was, you had to do something. You had to jerry curl it, you had to perm it, you had to hot comb it, you had to straighten it. You couldn't keep your regular curly hair. No, because that wasn't considered beauty. And then even still now, when we look at it, And we don't see, our own people together loving each other, black man, black woman. No, we see a specific type that they always give us, which is the high yellow woman with the straight hair, which was always the case. Back then, she was slim. She was had no butt, because back then that was the flat booty chicks was the thing. And she was slim, and she had to look like, what's her name from Coming to America? Always had to have that, and to this day they still have that, but now she has to have a butt. You see how that changed? You see what I'm saying? Then it went from natural hot combs to perms, from the Jerry curl, then the perms. So I went through those phases, and because of that, we see a lot of us with the hair situations. Either it's balding, it's going messed up around the edges. Why? Because they created it, let us think something was wrong with us the way we were, so that they can make money off it. But see, that's the illusion and delusion of it. There was never anything wrong with our original hair. Now everybody trying to grow their original hair back because they done did all of this extra. Now they done come to the fact that we realize we should have just kept our real hair. But see, whatever the world shows us, we always see our men with their women, or a high yellow version or mixed version with mixed folks, Hispanic or something else, of our men. We don't see them with us, or we see them gay, or we see them with us. And that's by design. Why? So that we can't reproduce, so that we can't get married and stay together and be couples. And because they know that two people in the household is always going to generate better and more income than one. So that's another pattern. Why? Because they know they marry. Whether she's fat, whether she's skinny, whether she's, flat butt or look the best, you going to see her with the rock on her hand, the children, and they're going to take care of themselves. And they're going to build and grow their wealth and not be impoverished, while we sit here, go back and forth arguing about who's this, who's that, why this, what that, taking care of what, doing this, doing that. And when I talked about before in The Making of a Slave, and I talked about it extensively, and how they went about, and I went through everything he talked about, the age, the color, the this, the differences, and how they use it against us. And it works even until this day. That was written way back in 19-something. And he said 400 years or more, and it will still be in place, and it will still work, and it's still working to this very day. It is still working to this very day. And so now that my hair is all jacked up and I'm trying to get it back, and the hormones and the this and the that, and I want my hair to be back. I wish it was, and I would cut it and I would do a bunch of things. And don't get me wrong, having it versatile and being able to do some things, of course. But having my natural hair back and being able to do that is one thing. But having it coming out and around the edges, because as you get older, it will, some people will thin in or bald or whatever, depending on the hormones. Now, I've had a lot of, on top of me getting older, I've had 2 major surgeries. I've had a lot going on with my body. So when you have those type of things going on, it does deplete you. And because it depletes you of your minerals, your nutrients, it's a lot to go through surgery and heal. It's a lot to have children. It's a lot to be stressed out all the time. It's a lot to do that. And then your body just bounce back like that. A lot of times it doesn't. So I've been dealing with a lot of things. My hormone levels are, much less. So I'm having to do supplements and do all these other things just to keep my health, going and keep myself steady as well. But that will have your hair thinning. That will have your skin doing all these crazy things because your hormones is imbalanced. But I'm already at the age of that happening, and then I already have the fibroid situation. So of course that's going to add on to it. So yes, this is what I'm going through, and it was something I was ashamed about, but I know that I'm not the only one that's dealing with it. And then my weight. The weight, it goes up and down. It's the hormone thing as well. And then it's my eating habits. I have to change my eating habits. So I'm in changing it, trying to figure out what works. My girl Kicking Weight with Keisha, girl, I love you, bro, because you've been helping the chick with this, figure out why I was eating salads forever, wasn't losing nothing. I was like, I'll be eating salad. I've been eating all this other stuff. I've been juicing, I've been doing, and I wasn't losing nothing. And it was the insulin retention. Why? Because sugar, which I didn't realize, because I already had sugar in my family. My grandmother has it. One of my cousins has it. They have it really bad. So now it's in the family, and never thinking that it could affect me. But whether I have diabetes or not, it already is in my family. Insulin retention is what we have, or the way we process it. So now it would make a big difference as to how I would gain or lose weight. Why? Because if you are insulin resistant and you're not processing it, you're going to swell up and be swollen all the time. Why? Because that sugar, anything you eat that turns into sugar is going to, if you're not processing it, digesting it, yeah, you're going to maintain it, retain it. And that's going to be a problem. That's what the bloat, the swollenness look. So if you want to lose, especially in certain areas, your stomach, a lot of times the cortisol and different things, she was talking about the weight around the stomach, the waistline, especially for women at a certain age, it's your hair, it's your stomach, all these type of things. You got to balance these hormones. Now, I had 2 operations. They never gave me hormone replacement therapy. And I had my first operation, I had everything cut into, but I have it all the way removed. And then my last one, I had the complete hysterectomy, so I have nothing. I can't have any children, which is fine because my kids are grown. I don't want any. And it was literally killing me because the fibroids was just the bleeding every month was ridiculous. And so I'm like, well, now I'm sitting here, and that's how I almost died twice. That was one of, and I'm like, and then my bowels collapsed in the surgery. So it's like, yeah, I have issues when it comes to my gut. So now for me to eat certain foods and all of that, to get nutrients, I have to do a lot. You know what I'm saying? I have to do a lot. And that means I have to eat healthy, and I have to be working out, and I have to watch these carbs, meaning the sugars, whether it's drinks, whether it's and you will be amazed at how much things actually have sugar. It's like I'm sitting here like, can I eat anything at this point? And if I don't, how am I going to replace it? So I'm on my journey, and between the hair and the skin and the weight and the health, just the health getting right, it's, it is something. And this is why I talk about this, because when you get to a certain age, it has to be more than just looks. You want somebody that looks decent, you're attracted to, don't get me wrong. But we all wake up, usually our breath stink, we got to go to the bathroom, we got to do natural things. And if you can't be with somebody and that's not okay, that's going to be a problem. Natural things, and I think we have gotten to the point where they like, I woke up like this, the flawless method, and everyone's perfect, and that's a lie. Because no one's just waking up, no one, period, is perfect. And I'm just going to say that. And when we're looking for mates and we're looking for all these things, we have to understand that we have to be, understanding that on both ends we have stuff going on. And we can't be just, because folks will do this and do that, they'll get with you, and everyone has an agenda, or whatever. And we have to look at that, because nobody wants to be bothered with people who got agendas. I mean, me personally, I'm not rich, I'm not poor, I take care of myself, I've always been that way. So when it comes to me being with somebody else, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm not going to sit here and be a burden. Now, if I'm sick or something, that's different. But other than that, no. But, honey, y'all have to be careful out here, because I'm telling you, it will be just like that. So, like I said, I've seen people who was together, and I remember my aunt and them, and I love my aunt, and they were married forever. And when my uncle died a couple years ago, it was like, and they just had this, and it wasn't that it was perfect, it was wonderful, but I know they had their fair share of stuff, don't get me wrong, but for them, she took care of her husband. He loved her, and she loved him, and, when he left here, and she was there the whole time, he was sick and everything, and I'm like, you don't find that too much anymore. People will leave or be cheated or doing other things. And it ain't even nowhere near that. And it's like, so what do you really, and it's not the same, I'm just saying. So I be sitting here like, I don't even understand. Now, marriage and being with somebody could be a beautiful, wonderful thing, but when it's with the right people. And in this world that we are in, I just am very skeptical. So I say all the time, I'm not looking to be with nobody. I'm not looking to, no. And, I'm not looking for nobody with no hidden agendas to come along with some harebrained scheme thinking I'm supposed to fall for it. I'm just not, I want to come, because that be what it is. They want to sleep with you, they want to lie to you, and come turn up your life for whatever reason. They see you shining, building, they didn't want you before, they didn't want to have you, they wanted everybody else, and then they get with them, and then now you ain't thinking they done went on, you let them go ahead and live there, and you living your life, and then now all of a sudden, then folks want to spin the block, come back, want to do this for what? And I'm saying this to say, be careful, because as you can see, you'll be fighting the same old demons. And when I say that, I'm not talking about just with relationships, because like I said, it could be friendships, it could be, when your spouse ships, and it could be at work and different things there going on as well. You got to be careful. And I hate it. I was talking about it well because I see how my sister, what's her name, Tina from Mary, and for me personally, I feel like she should have left her husband. This is my personal opinion. I just feel like she should have left him years ago when all of that came out. And I say that because here we are again fighting the same battles with the same demons. See, if she had left that enemy alone, then she wouldn't be dealing with that same enemy now. But see, when we keep playing, this is what we do. And in the Bible, okay, and they told her to stay, and a lot of people tell you stay, a lot of people tell you leave. I don't, I go with my own situation. If I see it's something that I could stay and fight, I'll try. But if not, once I know that it's something that is going to be continuous, and it's ain't no changing. I can't change people. I'm not Jesus. I can't save them either. I got to let it go. I got to go on ahead. I tried. I did the best that I could. It didn't work. Oh, well, never mind. I'm just going to move on. Why? Because it's just, you just continue with that back and forth and waste your whole 15, 20, 30 years of your life. Who got time to be back and forth playing with folks with the same old situations and issues and problems for years and years and years and years and years? That's a waste of time, energy, all of that. Your life, your money, it's just a waste. Who got time for that? And who wants to be consistently miserable and battling and going through all of these emotions and stressing yourself out and all this other stuff? So I would say I would pray for her. If that man don't want to be with her now after all of that, especially after she stayed with him through all the foolishness, the first thing I would have ran myself down to the courthouse and I would have filed for divorce first. See, because back then I was making examples of folks, because when they was cheating on me, baby, I made a point to cheat on them back. The Lord had to save me from a lot of things that tit for tat, Boogie, because honey, I was a firm believer in, I'm going to make you feel exactly how I feel, because the moment you open your mouth to me about what I did to you, I'm going to let you know the same way you feel is the same way I felt when you did it to me. So I don't want to hear it, because there's certain things you're not willing to put up with. So guess what? You want me to accept what you're not willing to? Baby, bye. A man will let you sit back while he have children on you and all kind of stuff, beat you down, don't pay for nothing, and then get ready and leave you as soon as somebody else cuter come along. And honey, you be there sat there and took all of that for what? This is what I be saying. When you could have left him a long time ago because your body, your this, your that, you done had a couple kids, it's harder for you to move on and meet somebody when you get older than it is for them to move on. So why would you even invest that type of time, money, energy, and effort into a situation? And that's just my personal opinion of that, because after a while, enough is enough, and I'm just not about to be bothered. I don't say a whole lot. I just start moving forward with my life, and you'll figure it out afterwards. I mean, what you want me to do? I'm not going to keep arguing with you about the same thing and doing all, and that's what I'm saying. So I feel like, it teaches us as women, and I had to teach my children and my, daughter not to put up with foolishness. Whether she do or not, that's on her. And because I already did it and I don't want them to do it, and I know that they got to learn like I got to learn, but still. And with my boys, when it come to you ain't about to be running around here sleeping with everybody's daughter either. Keep your thing in your pants. Figure out what you're going to do. Don't bring me everybody home. I don't need to meet them. You get your life right first. Because my thing to them was go get your life right first. Don't think about being with nobody. How you going to be with somebody you ain't got the basic needs and necessity? I used to teach on your own. I used to tease them all the time. They had to learn to cook, clean, do everything like I did. I don't care what gender role they was. Because when you in this house, you got to help pay bills and help do certain things. If they didn't want to, you had to get out. Why? Because you're going to pay bills everywhere else. But also, it's to help you when you leave here to be independent. You can't rely on me for everything the rest of your life, no way. You're going to become an adult and have to do the same things that I have to do for you, and then some. You're going to have to pay your own bills, cook your own food. So why would I sit here and handicap you? But I think a lot of times, a lot of folks was handicapped because their parents didn't teach. Some parents just didn't teach, especially the boys do a whole lot of nothing. My boys had to be boys. Get out there, cut that yard. You're going to clean that car. It's certain things that I felt like I didn't have to do. Why? Because as a man, you in this house, you my child, you going to learn how to do certain things. When you get out of this house, you have to. They say, I was mean, I was this. Listen, I had to do what I had to do. For a long time, I didn't have no man with me. So when I did meet my husband, as a woman taking care of children, especially men, these boys will try you. And then you got to be able to handle it. Honey, I didn't play. They knew mama put these bows on them in a minute. Don't play with me, boy. I love you to pieces. Try me if you want to. But you know, it's just like, you know, but they're able to do everything themselves now. They work, they, you know, no matter what is going on, they're able to cook, clean, they can do their own laundry. This is stuff that they were taught to do. So whether they had a woman in their life or not, that they knew that they had to be a man and they had to take care of themselves. You can't depend on nobody to take care of you. Man or woman, you can't. You got to depend on yourself and depend on God. And if someone comes along and y'all do it together, that's one thing. But you can't expect nobody to, you know, they gonna carry you. No, it don't work like that. And so, you know, God said, who knows who don't eat, don't work, don't eat. It just is what it is. So, I mean, and I know we live in a system now that you can still eat, which for the women and children, I think that's you know, I don't want women and children to be without no food. And as long as they try to do something with themselves, okay, you know, because if you need assistance, I haven't needed assistance. I've been on it, I've been off it, I've been both, back and forth, depending on what's going on in my life. And I paid into it. When it was time for me to get it, I better be able to get it. Why? Because I paid into it for somebody else to have it. And when it's time for me to get it, I need to be able to have it myself if that's what I need, if I'm going through something and I need the extra funds. But, you know, usually when it came to the men, and this is the sad part about it, because I didn't really put my kids' fathers on child support. Only one of them I did, and he had it was a real reason for that. If he had just left me alone, he wouldn't. But actually they did, but I didn't enforce it. But you know, but folks feel like you shouldn't, or they, you know, and even when you don't, if you can work something out, the entitlement, to me, a lot of them feel like they just feel like you should do everything, and it's like they should just do nothing, and it's like, it's crazy. So, but you know, these are the stereotypical things, and I see them online a lot. So I'm just talking about it because these are part of the situations that we see that are dysfunctional. These create debt cycles. They create scarcity mindsets. They have a lot of trauma and unhealthy relational patterns. These things are keeping people the way they are, hustling without rest, survival mode, especially for women who are, you know, and they was talking about how the woman dropped the kids off to her, you know. I had one of them like that with me and him for my youngest son, father. He was the only one really cared about his son, and God rest his soul. He left here in 2012, and I loved and respected him for that, because it didn't matter if me and him was together or not. Him helping with his son was something he was going to do, and it wasn't about me and my new man or him and his new woman. It had, you know, people get that. That's childish. Grow up, put your grown woman, grown man jeans, drawers on, and less panties, and let's not play these games. You know, but I'm just saying that to say, because a lot of folks they just be doing what they be doing. And they expect somebody else to do all the work. And that's just, even in a relationship when people are married, they expect the woman, you know, a lot of folks is talking about they don't want to get married no more, because as a woman, it's never 50-50. You always have so much more to do than a man. They go to work and they come home and that's it. You got to cook, you got to clean, you got to deal with kids, homework, all this. I mean, they, you know, and then you're tired. So walking around looking like Maybelline all day is not, and wanting to screw them like a porn star is not going to work. Now, maybe if you help with some of these bills or some of this stuff in here and do more than come in and do what you want to do, then maybe, you know, things might be a popping. But if you think you just going to, folks, be tired. I done ran around all day. What you think? I'm about to be sitting here and be a porn star? And then even if that was the case, would you even really be in deserving of it? I'm not going to keep sitting here and kill myself. You know, folks want you to give so much and they want to do so little. and then that be the part. Everybody want a dime, but you a nickel. You don't want to give and be what you requiring. It's crazy. What statistics say? Can't be a dime out here looking for all these dimes out here looking for nickels. Need to stop. But anyway, we just got to look at it for what it is. You know, in every aspect, we got to have more than, you know, people just sitting around, you know, doing a whole lot of nothing. And that's, you know, that's what this is all about. I mean, if you want to fight and break these cycles, you have to fight to break them. That means, you know, you get, you know, if you run around here and you single, don't have no whole bunch of babies. Get your life together. You know, that would be one way of breaking it. If your parents is on drugs, don't do drugs. So, you know, stay off drugs. So, you know, this is what they do, something different, opposite of what you see and what was passed down. That will be the start. But in order to get it that way and keep it that way, first thing is, because a lot of us don't see it or know it, we got to have God in our life, because we want him to bless whatever we're doing. We're going to go get degrees and we want to go be successful and open businesses. We want God to be in it so he can walk it out and tell us which way to go, which people to deal with, which people not to be scammed out of our money. People come along with these pyramid schemes. Oh, come join. They don't care. And make you pay your money. And then after that, they don't know you. Why? Because it's a scam. They just wanted you to come in and be under them, and whatever you do after that, that's your business. Why? They got their money. That's all they wanted off of you. You know what I'm saying? So then it's always a business. Ain't no business. It's some type of consulting where you got to, get people up under you and do all this extra. You got better chances of putting your money in the stock market than doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's about the credit. You want to have your credit good so you can do certain things. They don't want to tell you about the credit, how to get it, how to keep it managed. These are things we should have been taught, whether in school, at home. They keep a lot of these things and they make them so complicated. The languaging, like the legal system has this language, the medical. And if you're not in it, you don't know it. They do it for a reason. Because they want the ignorant to pay. You're going to pay one way or the other. For knowing it or not knowing it, you're going to pay. And so this is what this is about. Another way to break these ancient patterns is being healthy, know what runs in your bloodline, staying up on it, what goes on, seeing what your parents were sick of so you cannot be sick of it, so you can avoid it. What runs in your bloodline, eating healthy and doing other things. All that drinking and smoking and hanging and partying ain't going to help you, especially if you got a long line of cancer that run in your family, or high blood pressure, or diabetes. You might want to smoke a cigarette. You might want to stop all of that. Why? Because you see that the chances of you getting certain things go up with you already having it, so in your family. So it could be curses. It could be just patterns. It could be just things that you are actually choosing to do that get passed down. Like I said, now somebody having it in the family and it passing down and it already being there, it's already there. Now, can you avoid it? You try to. Sometimes it's just something you're gonna get. Sometimes it is a part of your story, your lineage, your life story. Sometimes it is. Because you got people that never smoke, drink, and then they still got it. So it's like, you never can tell. But then on the other side, if it does, pay attention and try to, combat it. I would say also when it comes to the poverty and stuff, teaching our children to do different things, to stick together, to stay together, to finish school, to go, to do other things, to open up businesses, to look into credits, to look into all these things, to manage their money well, to not be running around, paying for concerts, extreme, amounts of money for this, that, and the third that they ain't got. Why? Because we see that doesn't work for us. You know what I'm saying? You will want to build your credit. Why? Because just having the money is not going to help you. Having the credit is what's going to help you get things. Why? Because just having the money, you may have the money, but if you don't have the credit to go with it, they're not going to, when it comes to things worth value, homes and cars, they really don't, you know what I'm saying? They may give you a problem with that. Apartments, whatever. So, we want to be mindful of these things, and we want to be avoiding these patterns, avoiding these same cycles, avoiding these same, systems and kingdoms or whatever that's bondages to us, there's blockages holding us back. And on the mental, emotional, and spiritual side, our mindset being different, our spiritual thing being intact with God, the foundation, so that although we have all these so-called blockages that are, can be there, what they call them, they're not set in stone, but they can be there. We want him to move them out of the way or to help us in spite of them. You see what I'm saying? And this is what that's about. A lot of people say they don't know how I was able to, have a house built. I wasn't doing all the stuff that everybody else was doing, even back then. I was keeping below my budget when it came to my bills and stuff. I was paying my bills ahead of time. I was making sure stuff was taken care of. Why? I was going through things, but I was trying to make sure stuff was paid up, stuff was this, stuff. Why? Because I knew that there was times that, just like a business, there would be low times where things wasn't going well, or I would have jobs that would pay more, pay less, or they lay off or do this. So depending on where I was and what I was doing, I would have to make sure that no matter what, my bills was paid. So paying them ahead of time, so if something happened, I wouldn't have, I would give myself a breather in between time frames of where I would be able to, make a comeback real quick. If I lost the job, if I got laid off, if I got sick, if one of my kids got sick and I had to miss some days and, whatever, and my check was short and it wasn't what I know, because when you're living the paycheck to paycheck, what most people are, you have to, plan, you have to save, not spend every dime, especially on stupid stuff. You know what I'm saying? My kids wore clothes. Was they the greatest? No. Was they the worst? No. They wore what I could afford. Why? I wasn't with trying to buy every pair of Jordan that was out and do all of this. Why? Because Jordan wasn't getting all my money. Jordan didn't care if I ate and we had lights and stuff on. That was more important to me than all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Maintaining my bills and so-called being broke. Listen, as long as my bills is paid and my kids are taking care of food them out, I didn't care about nothing else. You know what I'm saying? So impressing other people to buy this, that, and the third to break my neck. When I did do stuff, I had my house and my cars and all, I was able to do it because I had built myself up over them years to that point. Why? I'm not buying Birkins and Coach and all this to impress people for what? I mean, that wasn't for me. You know, that wasn't something I was trying to do. It was not something that I cared for doing. You know, even if I was at the Mega Millions tomorrow, you think I'm about to run out and buy that stuff for what? Why would I? What they ever did for me? Nothing. Exactly. Shoot, I can go buy a regular bag from the regular Walmart or whoever else. The regular old little people on the corners that be selling. Listen, ain't nobody got time. And when you look up all that stuff, it all come from China, and they say it costs the same amount to make them Coach bags and the regular bags that folks be paying $500 on, and they say it, and they stupid for doing it. I ain't about to be stupid. That's the scam in it all. They just mark the price tag up. Why? Same bag, just marking it up. Whatever. So now, like I said, if it's the money, if it's your physical, you want to make sure you're keeping your doctor's appointments, because a lot of, between the STDs and all that, folks need to be running to the doctor. Especially men. Most men do not keep themselves up. They do not go to the doctor. They do not take care of themselves. And you got a lot of women running around here, sleeping with all these men. They be sleeping with all these women and whoever else they sleeping with, because they be down low too. And they don't take care of themselves either. And this is why folks be sick. Sick. Okay? Talk about pHs and all of that. A lot of times be the men sleeping around with all them other women, throwing them women pHs off. Why? Because you can't mix all of them. God didn't tell us to do all that stuff. And that's be the problem. So then she turned around, she got all these health issues, and she don't understand what's going on. That's why I say, even with Tina, her husband sleeping around and he cheating, don't continue to be with that man and allow him to. That's one of the reasons God gave us a certificate of divorce. Because at the end of the day, back then, divorces was to stone the two people and kill them that was divorcing. Now see, if we were living in Bible times, he would have been stoned the last time, him and the chick he was saying. Why? Because they would put them and tie them in front of everybody, and they would stone the two that was committing adultery to death in front of everybody. They pick up the stone. You want to look it up. But see, folks seem to think this stuff is light. God does not take. That's an altar, that's a covenant and a contract that they made before God to each other. God takes those things seriously. So please understand, when it comes to stuff like that, God don't play about stuff like that. So he can run around and do what he want to do, but he going to have to pay and suffer whether here and there more than anything if he don't get his life right. And she needs to know that you don't make idols of no man, because if he's doing all of that, you loving him more than God, you need to let that go. Don't make an idol out of that man. If he is doing all of that, let him go. You can't live by yourself? Be by yourself? You love him and worship him that much, you can't let him go. Let him go. And it might be the one thing God was trying to tell you the last time and this time. Let him go. You think God wants his daughters walking around here and with all of that going on? God didn't call you to be sitting here and no man cheating on you and giving you STDs and all kind of infections and stuff and disrespecting you and mistreating you. No, God died for his bride, the church. That's how much he loves her. He died for her. So you mean to tell me he wants you to sit around and be with a man who beats you and who's habitually committing adultery on you? Your mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual well-being is shot to heck, and you're going to sit there and continue to take. God doesn't want you to be like that. He wants you to go somewhere where somebody going to love you, if not be by yourself and let him love you. And until he could send you someone that's going to love you, he don't want you to be bothered with that. Now they would say, to forgive. You can forgive if you choose and want to forgive. But like I told my own husband, forgiveness is not something that I have to do. I can forgive you and not be with you. That's what people don't understand. I can forgive you and still not be with you and let you go about your business. Forgiveness is not, we're going to reconcile. Reconciliation is different from forgiveness. And a lot of people forgive and don't repent. You forgive people who ain't even said they sorry or don't even care. Or ain't truly really sorry, because repentance and truly being sorry was him not doing this anymore to her. But see, he wasn't finished the first time. She took him back too quick. She went through all of that because he wants to humiliate her publicly, which he has issues with him himself. Why a lot of these men hate the fact that these women have doing more than them. They like to go sleep with these women who ain't got nothing going on because she sees him as God. And that's a problem. But see, this one here, she must see him as God too. These are issues and problems. And they talk about it going on in the church and outside of the church. And that's right. They talk about, oh, pray away this. Listen, anybody who don't want to be with you, God gives us free will. Let them go about their business. If they don't love you and they don't want you, you do not have to sit and take the abuse. And this is what all of this is about. Breaking those chains, those patterns, those cycles of sitting back, because them old mothers sat back and let them men have whole families on them on the other side of town and all of this and all. God is not the author of that. There's nothing but confusion. The devil is involved in every last bit of that. Him and his wicked evil self and them. And as long as you are enabling the situation, because that's what you're doing when you're continuing to be in it, you're enabling it. And that's the part you play for what you're getting. Why? Because you're sitting back and you're allowing it. So the moment you stop, and I tell people all the time, a bone is just a bone till two dogs get together and decide the other one ain't going to have it. Now, the value is put on it not because of what it is, but because of what them two said it was. The value is already set as what it is. But they made it more or less or whatever by what they're doing. But at the end of the day, understand something. That is just crazy because it's all in their mind, because it's pride and it's ego. And at some point in time, you just have to let it go. Like I say, you just have to let it go. It's just not even worth it. It drags it out longer. It does all of these things. And that's about it. I know anybody come to me telling me, oh, I'm supposed to get married and I'm still married, is lying to me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they had a vision. Oh, they had this. And oh, God. Until I get a divorce, God ain't about to tell me to go be with no other man. That's a lie from the pit of hell. It's a lie. That's it. Why? Because if that was the case, then I would be divorced. He would allow me to be divorced. I've been trying to get divorced for 5 years. It ain't happened yet. And it might be the reason why, because God probably got me sitting here because all these folks want to come and do whatever, want to come back and spin the block. And he probably got me like, nah, you sit right there. You ain't with your husband. You can't be with nobody else. Sit right there and be by yourself. Why? Because, these fools play too many games and I don't want you involved in all of that. Why? Because I'm going to protect you by having you over here. And although you're not with your husband, you be by yourself until I say it's time. And I'm cool with that. Until, because why would I want to go and do the same old foolishness again? This is what I mean by fighting these same enemies. I am not going to continue to fight these same battles and these same old enemies. That's not going to happen. And they just keep recycling. No. It got to stop here. Whether it's cancer, whether it's sickness, disease, poverty, whatever it is, it got to stop. You got molestation. We got all kind of stuff, going on whether it's addiction or what else. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, in my bloodline. Whatever it is, I don't want to deal with it no more. Well, whoever dealt with it or didn't deal with it, I'm not going to continue to deal with it. That's on them. And I want better for me and my grandkids. So on both ends, this is not what I'm trying to do. But anyway, I hope that this word was a blessing to you. It sure was a blessing to me. But in Jesus' name, I'm going to let this one go because I got one more that I may have to do. I'm trying to get ahead so that I don't be behind anymore. And we are Bruised and Not Broken. You can like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, we got to be mindful and paying attention because there's a lot of things that go on that, grounds for divorce is adultery, period. I mean, so she could have divorced him a long time ago. He's talking about irreconcilable differences. Listen, folks be doing what they want to do to benefit, to get over, whatever. He probably trying to wait till he in the right. Now he wants to file so he can get some money, walk away with something. This be a lot of stuff that be going on. He didn't leave last time because he couldn't leave the way he wanted to leave. A lot of time that be, they be wanting to leave. They don't want to leave broke and empty-handed with their new chick they done lied to, stunted and fronted on, told you was so terrible. This be the problem. And then when she find out, because the new chick, she always like, oh, she was so terrible. Then when you go and have a conversation with the chick, If you ever did, because folks be real stupid. They want to be childish. Honey, by the time I got away from mine, I didn't care. Now, when I was with them and they was doing that bullshit, I let them know, listen, don't be calling me now because you mad because you see me on... today he was with me and then he was with you the other day, and on the days he's supposed to be with his wifey here, which was dumb of me. But, you know, by the time I got finished with my pride and ego, had to have, you know, let him and his chicks know, I'm going to let you go as soon as I'm done with you. They can have you. And they going to get you the way I got you, with a whole lot of nothing. When I met you, you had nothing. And when they get you, they don't let me build you up and you go be with the next chick. I'm not about to do that. Boogie. She better be all she can be in that army. She better build you up. When I get finished, she wants you, she can have you. But she gonna get you the way I got you. When I got you, you had nothing. And when she gets you, you gonna have nothing. You gonna have whatever it was. You can't. If it was just that scraggly suitcase when you came here, you gonna have that same scraggly suitcase when you leave. That's what you gonna have. Why? Because I'm not doing jack. You think I'm gonna build y'all life on my back? That be the thing. And I could have been with somebody else that could have did more than what you did or whatever and could have been happy. And then I done wasted all my time, money, energy, and effort in you for you to go be somebody else to build her. I wish I would. That's why I said, honey, folks got life messed up. Because, honey, she should have divorced him then. That was her out. God was giving her out then. And I say that because when I first got my first out, I should have took it. When I first found out about the first chick, and I stayed. And after that, ooh, baby, ooh, it cost me. It cost me in the end. Woo, from the house to, honey, it cost me. When I say it costs too much, and you learn the hard way, and when you find out, it's a lesson nobody else will never have to tell you for yourself. Because when you got to fight over cars and houses and all kind of stuff, because folks want to be more entitled and want, oh, honey, or if you make more, you got to pay for them when you leave them. Oh, baby, that's not cute. And we see that more and more. And that's why I tell folks, be careful, because the game done got slick. These men want to be treated like women for real. And it's the saddest part that they don't see nothing wrong with that. I mean, how you even a man? I mean, my father told me, any man that'll take money from a woman is a female. He's a you know what, because ain't no way in the world he taking no money from no woman. Why? Because he's not wearing the just the thought of him being thought of as a woman or being switching them roles. He like, nah, I'm not about to do that. He was like, nah, she ain't my, nah. I'm going to take care of what I need to take care of as far as me being a man. But me ask a woman for money? Me ask a woman for a place to stay, really? See, these men ain't men no more, and it's a shame. And my father, he played from that Malays with child, had a couple kids, but he took care of his kids. He wasn't I would say he was a provider. And he said this, so he's a provider. He provided. He wasn't in the home, he wasn't, but he provided. He took care of them as far as giving them. He went on with me because I live with him, but all the rest of them not so much. But it is what it is. But anyway, I'm going to let this one go. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel, to this video, and be blessed in Jesus' name. Like I said, this is why, I don't know, because my dad raised me, that might be why I act like that's what's meant to, because I'm hard and I ain't got no choice but to be. But anyway, be blessed, bruised and not broken. In Jesus' name, I want this word to be a blessing to you all. And I'm going to go into chapter 12. I'm trying to get ahead so on the weekends I don't have to necessarily I could be free on the weekends. But anyway, love you much. Joshua chapter 11. We are not going to continue to fight the same old enemies. We're not. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Ain't nobody spinning no blocks. Because you spin the block over here, you going to get what you looking for. It's not going to be cute. Stay over there. Leave me alone. I'm good. Love you to pieces. I wish you the well. But leave me alone now. Love you. And then the Lord watching anyway. So he gonna spin the block for me. Love you in Jesus' name. Amen.